and welcome to my channel. Today's video is going to be my monthly reading recap. I deviated a little from what I originally planned out my TBR for this past month to be, but for the most part I did stay true to it, so let's get into it. The first book I read this month was People We Meet on Vacation. I ended up giving this book 4 out of 5 stars. I have now read almost all of Emily Henry's books, with the exception of her newest one, Funny Story, and I honestly think this is my least favorite. And when I say that, I don't mean that it's like a horrible book. I mean, I still gave it 4 out of 5 stars, so I don't think that it's like this absolutely horrendous like storyline or anything. It's just not my favorite out of all the other books that I've read by her. Though I will admit, I am a sucker for the friends to lovers trope, so that was definitely a large part of the pull for me wanting to read this book and me being so into it. I think the main turnoff for me in this book and in most books is the miscommunication, and the only reason that it didn't make me as angry in this scenario is because it made sense in a weird way, which is not something that I normally enjoy saying, that miscommunication makes sense. But to the characters of this book, the two main characters, it made sense that they weren't understanding each other and their feelings because they weren't expressing them at all. So it kind of made sense that they weren't seeing eye to eye in that way. And I think this is going to be a bit of a hot take, but I actually love that I didn't read this until after they cast the movie for this book. Because I know that some people really enjoy like kind of making a fan cast for what a movie version of a book would look like. And they enjoy like hand-picking actors and actresses to play every role and whatnot. But I actually prefer when it's done for me and I don't have to like actively try to make an image for a character in my head. I actually really enjoy being able to like look up a movie online and being like, oh, that's what this character is supposed to look like. Okay. The next book I read this month is Where the Crawdads Sing. I ended up giving this book 3 out of 5 stars, mostly because I was kind of indifferent to it. I didn't hate it, but I also wasn't like obsessed with it or anything, so 3 is a good, like, mid-range. This weirdly felt like the kind of book that you would read in school. Just the way it's kind of written and the time period that it covers. Part of the reason that this book got such a midway rating is because I really prefer books with heavy dialogue, and considering the fact that the main character was living in the swamp for most of her life alone, there wasn't a lot of that, and that's fine because it was still entertaining to some degree. I mean, obviously, I finished it, but it's just not normally what I enjoy the most, so that is definitely part of the reason it got like a mid-rank. Spoiler alert for this book if you haven't read it already, but in this book, the main female character, Kaya, that's how I've been saying her name anyway, I don't know if that's correct. Anyways, is like accused of murder and is like taken to court, and she's proven innocent, and at the very end it's revealed that it was actually her. And the entire time I was reading it, I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe they falsely accused my girl. I cannot believe this. I was totally convinced she was innocent. And when they said she was innocent in court, I was like, oh my gosh, thank God that they didn't make the wrong verdict. But she actually did it! And granted, the person that she killed was kind of the worst, so I don't feel that bad. But I was shocked, definitely. And if you know me, you know I love being actually surprised by the plot twist. So that was very nice. The next book that I read this month was French Kissing in New York. This book got 2 out of 5 stars. And that is mainly because I was genuinely disappointed. This is not the first time, and it will not be the last time that I have judged a book based on its cover and been disappointed. The way this book is written and the plot line that it follows makes it seem like it was kind of written to be directed at like younger teenagers, and even for like a teen romance book, it felt really bad. Like, sorry, bad. I just felt like the plot of the main female character trying to find this boy that she spent a like summer night with a year ago was just so dragged out. I don't think we actually met the guy until over halfway through the book. Um, and if you've watched my other video of me getting out of a reading slump because of this book, then you know I've already expressed my anger towards that. I don't know. Something about this book just genuinely made me like so annoyed and just so like ready to move on. Also, the constant miscommunication between literally every single character in this book made me want to throw it out a window. I wish I was kidding. Like I said earlier about people we meet on vacation, that book had miscommunication, but it made sense to the characters and it made sense to the plot, as, again, disgusting as that sounds. But for this book, it just felt like it was the only way to keep the story moving. That one character was hiding a secret from this other character, and then that character, instead of telling the person that they're supposed to tell, ends up telling another person, so it becomes this big secret that they're all keeping from this one person. And I was just genuinely so tired with it by the end of the book. And the last book I read this month is Loud, Accepting Nothing Less Than the Life You Deserve. This is a memoir written by Drew Afalo. I'm pretty sure I'm saying that name right. I think. I hope. If I'm not, I'm sorry. But I actually just finished reading this today, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I listened to the audiobook of this as I was reading it, which is the first time I've actually done that since high school, I think. And it was really fun, especially because Drew herself was the one reading it, so it felt like she was just talking to you. I think this book is actually filled with so much wisdom for someone at such a young age to like have. I had so many different revelations while reading this book that I was like, wow, I do have that bias against certain people, or wow, I do struggle with that internalized hatred. And it was just so interesting to see someone at such a young age be so self-aware of all that. It's just incredibly impressive, and I applaud Drew for this absolutely incredible book. Some of my favorite parts of this book were when she talked about coming to terms with and being okay with the possibility of dying alone, which sounds really like scary when I just say that out of context, but the way she describes it in the book makes it seem so like calming and, I don't know, just like peaceful almost. And I thought before reading this book that I had come to terms with the possibility of dying alone. And in reading her talking about it, I have not. So that is something that I personally want to strive to get to that place, like where she's at. And another thing that I want to strive to be at a place where she's at is her view on her body, because she describes it as body neutrality as opposed to like body positivity, or in the bad aspect, body negativity. I like, again, she's just so wise for her age. It's like actually incredible. I think she's insanely intelligent, insanely witty, insanely funny, and just absolutely amazing. I would highly recommend this book to anyone that struggles with like internalized hatred or self-worth, because it truly is such an eye-opener in that way, and it just feels so good being able to like digest all of this advice and like knowledge, I guess. Again, it's kind of weird to be talking about how wise this 20-something-year-old woman is, but truthfully, she is, so I'm gonna keep saying it. But that is all the books I've read this month, so now I am going to move on to my TBR for September. As always, these books aren't in any specific order on how I'll read them this month. I'm just hoping to actually get to all of them. The first book that I'm hoping to read this coming month is actually a new release, and that is Daydream by Hannah Grace. I've been a huge fan of the Maple Hills series ever since Icebreaker. And you know what? I don't care that people on TikTok think that this is an incredibly cheesy series or that it's bad, because I genuinely enjoy it. So I'm gonna have a great time reading this book, or at least I really hope I am. And I'm also gonna have a great time because if nothing else, the female main character is wearing a Taylor Swift cardigan. So yeah, I'm gonna have a great time. Like, I am obsessed with the, like, hockey romance genre, even though it's not a genre, it's like a subgenre. I know that, whatever. But, like, I love this series so much, so I am very hopeful and very excited for this book. Next up on my TBR for this coming month is Heartless. It is the second book in the Chestnut Spring series, and I actually read the first book a while ago, and I thought originally that I was going to reread the first book before I jumped into this one, just to, like, get a feel for what the vibe was. But then I realized I didn't want to do that, so I'm just gonna go straight into the second book, even though it's been a while since I've been in this particular series. Due to a recent obsession with a movie, which if you watched my last video, you would know is Twisters, I have been getting into the cowboy vibe in my life. I've been listening to a lot of country music. I've been very interested in cowboy romance novels, which is such an embarrassing like sentence to say, but I digress. So I've been very excited for this one, to say the least. The last book that I have on my TBR for this month is The Wicked King. This is also a book in a series. It is the second book. I read The Cruel Prince back in May? Maybe in June? Maybe July. Anyways, I read it sometime recently and really enjoyed it, but I hadn't gotten into the second book because my coworker that actually introduced me to the series in the first place said that if I'm gonna read the second book, I need to go ahead and have the third book as well, because apparently this one ends on a cliffhanger and I'm just gonna want to go ahead and jump straight into the third book. So I guess in a way the third book in this series is also kind of on my TBR, but it's like more so unofficially on my TBR for this month. But again, I'm very excited to continue this series. I have very high hopes, so I hope they're met. But yeah, this coming month's TBR isn't super long, but that's partially because I almost fell into a reading slump last month, and I just don't want to put too much pressure on myself to read a lot of books in hopes that if I don't have the pressure, then I won't get into another reading slump. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's really all I've got for today. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!